Right on schedule, Bandai has released more information about the second wave of the Digimon Pendulum color, though unlike last time, where they released a new Mon memo every few days to cover each of the devices, this time they released all the information in one day. So we now have the entire roster for each of these devices. We're going to go through that. Before I go into those beautiful details, though, I'll just remind you that this is currently on pre-order. There are several shops that are selling these pre-orders, so if you wanted to be able to reserve one, make sure you go and get that done quick, because once this does release, and that will be later this year, those prices will be much higher than they are right now. So make sure to get a pre-order in now so that you're not paying a whole bunch later if you want one of these based on the rosters I'm sharing today. These are pre-order only devices. They will not have a retail release, and the closer we get to that release, the less likely it is that you'll be able to find pre-orders for it. So make sure to get those in as quickly as you can at the usual shops like Zenin, Japan You Want, Hobby Genki, anywhere that still has it, basically. Make sure to get your orders in for that. So let's talk about the actual meat, the actual rosters that we are dealing with here. So we'll start with Wind Guardians. Here is the entire roster for that device. So we have everything filled in here. Again, this is a combination of the original Wind Guardians pendulums, both the 4.0 and the 4.5. So we have everyone from the 4.0, and then we also have Palmon from the 4.5, along with Lilymon and Rosemon. Unlike the other versions of the Pendulum that had .5 versions, they did not replace one of the adults. Instead, they replaced one of the children's stages. So they replaced Floramon with Palmon on the original, but we get both in this case because they have all the Digimon from both the .0s and the .5s. And that's true for each of these devices we're talking about, except for the Virus Busters, because that didn't have a .5 release. But either way, moving on from that, we'll talk about the actual new Digimon here. Well, first let's talk about the sprites a little bit here. I definitely am a big fan of a lot of these, a lot of really good colorizations. Some not so great. Floramon's pretty ridiculous looking. I did a mock-up a while back that I feel like did a better job on this, but, you know, that's just my opinion. I'm sure someone likes the way that this very red-faced Floramon looks, but alright. Other ones, though, very much happy with. Blossomon, Garudamon both look fantastic. Delamon looks great. I think there's a lot of really good coloring here, so overall, fantastic roster. I think the most improved on this one is going to be Hoemon, because Hoemon's sprite is kind of dull on the original, to be honest with you, the black and white sprite, and this really gives it a lot more character than the original black and white version. This is definitely a Digimon that benefits from it being in color. So let's look at the new Digimon that weren't on the original 4.0 and 4.5. So we have Ulforce Veedramon, who was basically all but guaranteed. In fact, we've correctly identified all of these Digimon from when the reveals were forthcoming. So originally we had Lotusmon in place of Rafflesamon, but once we saw that the Jagras would be Carnumon, we're like, well, okay, I guess Rafflesamon's going to be the Data Ultimate then, in which it was. But Ulforce Veedramon, so of course they have Aero Veedramon on the device, so you gotta have Ulforce Veedramon, just how it works. It's even how they phrased it in the Mon memo. They're like, well, obviously if I have Aero Veedramon, Ulforce is there. So Rafflesamon, who originally debuted as a Jagras between Rosemon and Lotusmon, has, for whatever reason, not been used as such since then. So on the original Pendulum version 20th, it's kind of been used as in a few spots, but overall it's been treated much more as just a completely separate Flower Lady Ultimate Stage Digimon. So I don't know what the deal is with that, why they don't want it to be a Jagras anymore, but yeah, it's alongside Rosemon instead of evolving from it on this. And then, of course, we have Hydramon, who is the best possible pick that could have been made for the Virus Ultimate. Very fantastic Digimon, absolutely love it, and very excited to see it here. So we have, as well, the Super Ultimates. So we have Carnumon, who is a completely new Digimon made just for this device. It is a deer with horns, which is neat. And it is a Jagras evolution of Hydramon, who we see here, as well as Pinocchimon from the original Pendulums. So it's a bit odd because two viruses and they combine together to make a data. Not the oddest thing in the world, because I guess with Aegistramon, that's a vaccine and it comes from two datas, so whatever. But just, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely not one of those Jagrases that are made to be like, yeah, this is sensible. It's just kind of it's here. Somehow Hydramon and Pinocchimon makes this, but either way, love it that it's here. And then of course Mitamamon, we've known Mitamamon to be on this device since the Wave 1 Pendulums released. We've known that would be coming, and we also already knew that it would be a Jagras between Marine Angemon and Hoemon. We were able to figure that out from some data mining, and they've confirmed it on this Mon memo. So there we go, that is the Digimon here. Oh, I failed to mention that Rafflesamon is associated with Blossomon, so it sounds like it in the Mon memo, so it sounds like it'll evolve naturally from Blossomon. Whether or not Hydramon will evolve naturally from Garbamon or not, I don't know. It could be that's what might be my best guess. I would say Pinocchimon is more likely to come from Doraemon, but don't know for sure at this point. So those are the additional Digimon that were added to the main part of the roster, but then we also, of course, have our guest star, which in this case is Terramon from the new Digimon Liberators, the new webcomic that's out in a very annoying to read format. Listen, maybe I'm just an old curmudgeon, but a webcomic that's formatted for smartphones is just the most bonkers thing to me, and I hate it. I'm sorry. I really do not like reading this just because of the format alone. Especially because it's like, it's not like it's just you're reading the page on a smartphone. It's like the panels are all vertical. I don't know. I'm probably just complaining about something that everyone else has been used to for years, but, you know, I grew up on webcomics like 8-Bit Theater, Bob and George, and Penny Arcade, which were all laid out for desktop screens, so that's what I'm used to. Either way, I'm sure it's good. It looks good, at least. I will say Liberators does look good. It looks very high quality as far as what they've been doing, so that's neat. But Terramon's a new Digimon on there. It's got a little tornado going on there. It evolves into Galemon, which evolves into Grand Galemon, which evolves into Zephagamon. So that is its line all the way in there. We didn't have explicit confirmation on the latter three of those as of yet, but it was guaranteed, basically. There was no chance that it wouldn't be those Digimon, so that was not a big surprise. Overall, the Wind Guardians device, again, once they revealed the Pendulums back in April, it was very clear what the whole roster would be. There was no question, so this one was not very surprising. And the next one, though, Metal Empire, definitely has a few surprises up its sleeve. So we'll talk about the Digimon that were introduced, or that were originally on this device. So we have, again, a .0 and a .5 version. And so we have Digimon like Revolmon and Cyberdramon and all of them. A lot of really good options here. As far as my personal pick as far as coloring goes for the best one, Clockmon probably has some of my favorites, although actually no, I'm gonna have to go with Revolmon. Revolmon has such a fun way of fitting in its reference book design into its sprite design. For those unaware, a lot of Digimon start off as sprites rather than artwork, and that was as far when the virtual pets were being the main driving force in the series. So that was still the case back here. A lot of Digimon were coming out of the Pendulum series. So Revolmon is one such Digimon where it was made to be a sprite first, and as such it's just completely bonkers looking compared to what you would expect it to be based on its artwork, where I guess the artwork might be bonkers based on what you would expect to see from its sprite. Whatever way you look at it, I love the way that they incorporated the design's colors into this, and it just looks fantastic. So Revolmon's my favorite as far as the colorization goes on here. I think there's a lot of good colorizations on here. I don't know if there's one that I would particularly not like. Yeah, no, I think I'm happy with all of them as far as the returning Digimon go. So Commandermon's looking really good. The camouflage for Commandermon really is the type of thing that is meant for color. Like, Commandermon would not look as good on a black and white device, very much so. So I'm happy to see it like that here. So let's talk about the new Digimon on here. So for the additions, so Hyandramon, that was basically confirmed back when they did a poll for the different Digimon fields. So we've known about that one for a while. Plus Andromon, why wouldn't it be? We have Ragnamon, and this is associated with Cyberdramon. Definitely not a pick I was expecting. I didn't really have any strong picks for the Data Ultimate, to be honest with you. And this is also not a Data Ultimate. It is a free Ultimate. It's assuming it'll be the free attribute on the Pendulum color when it releases. That's what it is in the reference book, and usually that's what they follow. But this is not one that I was looking, or that I was expecting to see whatsoever. So again, that's associated with Cyberdramon. Neat to see it here. It was recently on the Vital Bracelet as well, so I guess it makes sense for it to show up here. Since they now have this new reference book artwork and everything to use with it. Either way, that's Ragnamon. Then we have Zeke Greymon as the Virus Ultimate, and despite being the Virus Ultimate, they are associating it with Nightmon, so it sounds like Nightmon would naturally evolve into Zeke Greymon. They really did not care about the normal attribute associations that Pendulums have, I guess, so yeah, Nightmon is looking to become Zeke Greymon, so neat. I don't really have strong feelings towards Zeke Greymon. Not huge into its coloring in general, not just the sprite, but I mean like just the way it is, the gold and the silver. It is not my aesthetic. So either way, I have no real complaints about it, though. I think it's a fine pick. We have Chaosdramon returning from the Digital Monster color, once again evolving from Mugendramon, except this time Mugendramon's partner will be Hyandramon. So Hyandramon and Mugendramon will jog us together and create Chaosdramon. I think that's a reference to something in a video game somewhere. I don't know. I don't play Digimon video games, so I have no idea. And then, of course, we have War Greymon and Metal Garurumon on this device, so Omegamon's here too. No, you can't have those guys without Omegamon. The original Metal Empire did have them without Omegamon, but that's only because Omegamon wasn't invented yet. If it was, I can guarantee you that Venom Vandemon would not have been on the .5 version. Omegamon would have been. Well, I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. Did the 5.5 come out after or before the 0? I don't remember. I will have to figure that out later. I don't care too much to look right now. So those are the new Digimon added to the main roster. Let's move on to the guest stars, and we do, of course, have Commandramon. Now, Commandramon originally premiered back on the Digimon XL, so it's not a guest star from the XL in this case. It is a guest star from Seekers, and we know that because on the XL, its evolutions, or at least the Digimon that were tightly associated with Commandramon, were Sealsdramon, Tankdramon, and Darkdramon. But when Seekers came out, apparently they came up with this lore that those Commandramon that didn't pass the test to become Sealsdramon become High Commandramon that we see here. So we have High Commandramon, which evolves into Cargodramon, which evolves into Brigadramon. Again, this is a pretty much guaranteed pick for Metal Empire, so no surprises with that. The other Digimon are a little bit more surprising. So again, I didn't expect to see Ragnamon or Greymon, to be honest with you. But I didn't also have super high expectations for anyone in particular. So yeah, some pleasant surprises coming out of Metal Empire. And that brings us to the most bonkers device that they've put together here, and that's Virus Busters. So Virus Busters completely eschewed all of my expectations a few times now. So originally, I had only expected to see Gamamon, who is the guest star, become Beetle Gamamon, and then that into Canavismon, and that into Siriusmon. That's all I expected. I expected those 4 Digimon. As you can see from this roster, Gamamon and its evolutions take up 10 entire slots on this device. So I really hope you like Gamamon, which I would be fine with, and I was fine with last month when they announced that Gamamon would have both would have both Siriusmon and Arcturusmon. We assumed it would have Beetle Gamamon and Gulas Gamamon, etc. We didn't assume that it would have Kaus Gamamon and Weezing Gamamon, though. That was not expected. We'll talk more about that in a second, but yeah, that completely blindsided me. Not thrilled with the decision because it does make the chart here a little more lopsided than the others. So we have more adults and fewer ultimates, which is a shame to me, to be honest, because I like when rosters grow as you evolve. So having more choices, like the X series, is perfect at that. You know, you have 5 child stages, 7 adult stages, and a whole bunch of perfects and an uncanny amount of ultimates. So I very much prefer when they go that route. So having it shrink as you progress is not as interesting to me. So I don't know. I'm a little bit disappointed by the Virus Busters roster overall, I'm not going to lie. If you like Gamamon, again, this is probably just your dream come true, and I'm very happy for you. I legitimately am, but I don't like Gamamon enough to warrant having the roster look this way. I do like Gamamon, don't get me wrong, he's fine. Yeah, I don't like him enough to make up for the downsides to this. But enough about that for a moment, so let's talk about coloring of the old sprites. So again, the 0 did not have a .5 version. It was just the Pendulum 0. It was just one version, so there were only 3, 6, and 3 for the child, adult, perfect, and ultimate stages. And so there was plenty of room to work with here, hence again why adding more Gamamon makes sense. So looking at the originals though, Asuramon is easily my favorite colorization on this one. I think that it makes its sprite stand out so much more. It looks fantastic. Asuramon really is a real standout on this. I don't know. Well, yeah, actually, no, there is a bad one. Metal Mamemon, it was pointed out to me that the bottom half of it isn't red, which is why. On the version 2, the little 8x8 Metal Mamemon sprite did have a lower red half. This one does not, and so it's like, it doesn't even properly look like Metal Mamemon, which is a big bummer. I'm secretly hoping that they fix that before release and actually fix the sprite. They've been known to. That is not a thing that is unreasonable for me to think that can happen, because the Pendulum Z, they did change sprites between announcement and release. I think Kusokumon and Marine Chimeramon, I think those sprites were different specifically prior to coming out. So it's not unheard of. I would also say it's probably not likely that they would fix it, but I'm really hoping they do, because Metal Mamemon would look a lot better if it had the red accent below it, like it should. But not a big deal overall, I will say. So yeah, that's the main roster there. I wouldn't expect the Omegamon that we see over there on the right, who Omegamon was on the original Virus Busters. It could evolve from Metal Greymon, Metal Garurumon and War Greymon, but it could also evolve from Holy Angemon and Anjouamon. I don't think it will be able to do that in this one. I think that's one thing they would change, because now there actually is a proper Super Ultimate slot that didn't exist on the original Pendulum, so there's no real reason to have to go by the limitations of what the original Pendulum had and make it occupy the virus slot that it would have before. So that's my expectation. I can't imagine them going that route. So let's talk about the new Digimon. So the ones that have been added to the roster, smaller number than we see for the main roster, and this is why it's a bit of a bummer. So we have Dominamon, which is a fantastic choice. So originally my main thought was that they'd probably go with Seraphimon and Ophanimon for 2 of the Ultimates, because those were previously used on the Pendulum 20th. But I was also was leaning more towards those 2, but I was also saying that Dominamon and Lovely Angemon would be good options too. And so they did end up going with Dominamon, which I think is great. It's really cool to see it on here. And I think it makes more sense as a Pendulum roster Digimon, since it's I don't know, it just feels more right. You know, the Seraphimon can go with the O2 devices and all that, but for the Pendulum, Dominamon just feels like it fits better. For no real reason other than that I just think it does. But they didn't go with Lovely Angemon or any Angel Digimon whatsoever for the next Ultimate. They went with Quantumon, who was a random Digimon that appeared at the end of Ghost Game's very odd and controversial ending, where things just stopped. And I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about Quantumon. I don't have any strong feelings towards it at all. It's there. It sure is there. So if you liked it, great, good for you. And then of course Mastemon's on here as well, because we have Anjouamon, and you can take Lady Devimon from the Nightmare Soldier's device and Dogress it into Mastemon with Anjouamon. Dominamon is obviously associated with Holy Angemon, just like it is in V-Tamer. Quantumon, I don't believe they said anything specific as far as what it's associated with, whether that's Anjouamon, Metal Mamimon, Asuramon, or none of the above. Impossible to say, but this is where we go into the guest slot. And at this point that I'd like to remind you that the guest Digimon are unlocked by connecting to any other version of the Pendulum. So if you're only getting one version of the Pendulum and you don't have a device like an ACOM, then you won't be able to raise Gamamon, and if you can't raise Gamamon, it's very likely you won't be able to raise any of these 10 Digimon that I'm going to be talking about here. Because generally speaking, the guest lines are only evolvable into from the guest Digimon. That's just kind of how it works. That's how it was on the first wave. That's how I would have expected to be on the second wave as well. So maybe they'll change that. Don't know. But if they don't, then that means 10 Digimon are locked behind unlocking them via connection to another device, which is pretty insane for this size of roster, at least. Similar to what they did with the Pendulum Z. There were a lot of Digimon locked behind connections on the Pendulum Z as well, but that one at least had a pretty sizable roster on its own to make up for it. Either way, so we got Gamamon. We have its 4 evolutions that were used in Ghost Game for its adult forms. We have Beetle Gamamon, Kaus Gamamon, Weezing Gamamon, and Gulas Gamamon. So again, only expected to see 2 of those. The 2 more humanoid one, or I guess the ones with big, they all have capes, whatever. The red one and the black one, but not the blue one and the green one. The blue one and the green one are surprises, but I like them just fine. Just feel like it's not great that they took up 2 of the ultimate slots. And if you disagree, I'm very happy that you enjoy it for what it is then, because yeah, I'm not thrilled by that. So of course these evolve. There are 2 perfects. We have Canavismon and Regulusmon. And then 2 ultimates, Seriousmon and Arcturusmon. I'll let you take a guess as to who's associated with who. And then Seriousmon and Arcturusmon, just like on the Vital Bracelet, can Jogger's together to become Proximimon. And that gives us the entirety of the Virus Busters roster. And that takes us to the end of talking about those updates. So there are just a few days left for the standard pre-order period. I believe the pre-orders are already out on Premium Bandai Japan. I don't know if they're going to have more on there or not, but you should still be able to get it in other spots. Again, try to get it before pre-order period's over, and certainly before the device is released, so you're not getting any post-release price hikes that will assuredly come. I can promise you that, and I wish they wouldn't, but they will, because these are limited devices, because Bandai doesn't trust you to be able to have these sold retail, and I guess, I don't know, they might be kind of right about that. I don't think Digimon products sell that great. Meanwhile, we have a new Tamagotchi connection coming out, and I'm very excited about that. And that's coming retail, because Bandai can trust Tamagotchi to push units. So Digimon's just different that way. Either way, if you did like these rosters, and yeah, definitely check them out. If you want to talk about these devices, make sure to head over to the Discord server, where we are constantly talking about this and all other things Digimon Virtual Pets. And that is going to do it for the moment. I do have another video that I'm hoping will come out very soon here. I'm working on it right now. I was intending to be my next video, but this news happened now and shifted things around a little bit. So, but yeah, that's going to do it for now. So until next time, bye.